Hey, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Sean and Eric show. I'm your host, Sean, along with
And
my co-host, Eric.
Eric, hey, great to be here, everybody.
Hey, it's been a while since we had our last podcast. We apologize to everyone on that. It's been pretty hectic few months. A lot has been going on, and we'll talk about a few of those things
I blame
today.
it on Trump.
Well, we'll get to that. But first and foremost, what is the latest thing that's up with you?
Oh, well, good news on the art front. I shipped out 11 paintings this week to fellow patrons celebrating my birthday. I did a little I don't know, art drop, I guess, from my website and told my friends as a birthday gift from me to them. I turned 41 on the 30th of October. And yeah, so I told them basically, hey, here's a coupon code, happy birthday. You get a free painting if you put it in the sales area. So yeah, 11 people ordered. I got some donations and it covered the shipping. So I'm happy. And it's good to get my work out there to the people. So we'll see what happens.
Nice, nice. It's always great to hear all the good things you do. I mean, you're so selfless that on your own birthday you're giving away stuff. So happy birthday, my friend. Happy 41st. So
Thank you. Thank you.
I uh I don't like staring at the face of my own mortality at this point. So I try to ignore. I've always tried to ignore my own age, but now I really am making a concerted effort on that. So
Yeah, man, we gotta stay healthy in order to stay wealthy, because that is the
yeah,
true wealth.
yeah.
So
But hey, you mentioned Trump. So about that, so something important happened. We had the general election here in the United States, and it came into a pretty interesting results. Of course, as you mentioned, Trump, he ended up winning re-election quite a bit. He won. He was the first Republican in a long time to actually win the popular vote. So he far outpaced his performance in his first election. So,
mhm.
but then also more importantly, I mean, the Republicans have a unified government.
I know. Oh my God, they have the House and the Senate.
They have the House and the Senate, and then they packed the Supreme Court with justices that lean toward Republican uh, uh, general views. So it's going to be an interesting reality going forward. I'm actually more worried about the impacts internationally, right? The
Mhm.
president, never mind the legislature. They control. They're the main players when it comes to everything from the power of the purse to even declaring war. But the president still, in spite of that, has significant impact, principally significant impacts from an international standpoint, more so than through domestic issues, which again is something that's more in the purview of Congress. Um,
Do
so
you?
I'm kind of interested in really seeing what your thoughts are, Eric, on
Yeah, I wonder if he
the
can
impact
get
on
Russia to
Ukraine.
stop attacking Ukraine.
Yeah.
You know
Well,
that would be.
that you go ahead.
Oh, that'd be interesting to see. Maybe he could be a peacemaker. Who knows?
Well,
I
he
don't know.
definitely he definitely played himself up as that. He also made comments that he was going to stop the war within days after being elected as president-elect. I mean, it's been days. The war's still going on. Last time I checked, he
Yeah.
he, he did have a closed session conversation with Vladimir Putin, though.
Oh, he did. Okay.
He did. So I don't know what the results of that were, except for some of the uh, ramblings from some of the people in his inner circle talking about it. But one thing's for sure is that as of right now, the war continues, and more importantly, uh, today is the 17th. Russia just had its most dangerous volley into Ukraine, over 200 missiles. Uh,
No.
yeah, shot over to Ukraine. and it was hitting in civilian infrastructure. I mean, that's just a common thing. So Russia is doing everything it can to destroy any bargaining power that the Ukrainians have in advance of Trump taking power. My assessment is that once Trump takes power, he's going to essentially abandon our Ukrainian allies,
Mm-hmm.
um, and he's going to force uh, a uneven treaty, which will result in Ukraine losing significant territory and national pride and sovereignty in favor of Russia. And he'll chalk it up as a win by saying that he negotiated peace, he brokered peace. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
what is peace when it comes at the cost of one's own ability at self-determination, right? I
Right.
mean, you look at the Gazans today, they have no state. They have nowhere to go. It's an open air prison. And yet the world seems to be confused that they are a danger. Well, anybody would be a danger if they're being told, hey, we're not going to, a third party, an outside force is telling you, hey, we're not going to let you live a normal life. We're going to watch you, everything you do. We're going to control your borders. We're going to basically make your life terrible. In the meanwhile, we're going to encroach upon your territory, which we don't even recognize as sovereign territory to begin with, and nobody's going to stop us. And
Mm.
you do anything at all, we're going to kill you. I,
It's not
I
a way
mean,
to live. Yeah.
what we see today in Gaza is it's heartbreaking
It
that
really is.
there's any type of rationalization that people, the civilians, should die simply for existing. And yes, and there, make no qualm about it, that there is not a single question on this subject. They are civilians, and their most heinous crime is to be born Gazan.
Mm.
And you know, same with Ukraine, right? Right now, the the propaganda is that from Russia, which has successfully uh, manipulated large segments of the world, is that somehow they're evil, and they must be in their invaders. Meanwhile, the people saying that are the same people that are bombing mercilessly civilian infrastructure, killing people.
Right.
And
Now,
now we have
what
a go ahead.
what makes you say that it's that the Russian propaganda has been like infiltrated a lot of the world?
So when you look at even just in U.S. discourse, a lot of the falsehoods is that, by the way, this is being reverberated across international borders. I mean, all across East Asia. I mean, I tap into a lot of the chatter that goes on from East Asia, Southeast Asia, Europe, and also Oceania, so Australia and so forth. Large segments of the population are repeating what are quintessential Russian mistruths. For instance, Russia had no choice but to engage in a military operation because NATO was the aggressor, because NATO was going to attack Russia.
What?
Well, I mean, that sounds insane to you, but
Yeah.
there are millions of people that believe that this is the case.
Mm.
And on top of that, there are, especially among white nationalist groups in the US, they
Mm.
reverberate this commentary, which by the way is irony, because remember, white nationalist groups, okay, that Ukraine are are fascists, they're Nazi fascists. And I tried to kind of like untangle the mental gymnastics needed to understand this, right?
Right.
Uh, you're demonizing a country that's being attacked by a much more powerful aggressor, okay? And the victimized country is run by a Jewish president. I I, I don't even know how to understand this, but yet that is the prevailing commentary from the Russian domestic populace all the way to the US. That is something that millions of people actually believe.
Wow.
It, it's sickening,
It
to be
is.
honest.
It is.
And the
Hmm.
what's going to happen? I suspect, putting on my intelligence hat on, when Ukraine finally gets into the aftermath of this and has become some shadow of its former self, it's going to pull a Georgia, the country Georgia, not the state of Georgia.
Sure.
It's going to turn its back on the West. Georgia right now was very anti-Russia until Russia attacked it and put it in its proverbial place. Now the general sentiment is we don't want to associate. The Georgian people don't want to associate with the West, with the European Union, with the United States,
Mm.
because they view us as having abandoned it. Well, it's going to be a lot worse with Ukraine, and that means that all the money that we spent, all the efforts that we have put since the onset of the war, is going to be for naught. So, anyways, and then we haven't even gone over Trump's election, how it would impact other parts of the world, right? We talked about Russia and Ukraine, and we talked a little bit about Gaza, but what about China and Taiwan? So
Yeah.
here is actually an interesting thing. China's intelligence has stated, and again, this is all open source, right? Uh, they have gone to the president Xi Jinping, which is president of China, and basically said, "Hey, this might be an issue for us. United States is perceived as going to, under Trump, perceived as getting closer with Russia. What does that mean? That means that China will become isolated, right? So
Hmm.
China sees this as a severe potential impact. Russia is already gaining more influence with North Korea, one of China's older allies, on again, off again ally. I mean, China begrudgingly considers North Korea its ally, but it's one of those, one of those guys that you just really, really don't like, but you just kind of keep him around because he has something on you, or you just feel like it'll be worse otherwise.
Right.
In
Right.
this case, that's what China is with North Korea. Because if North Korea destabilizes, it's going to result in millions of refugees flooding into not just South Korea, but to China. And China does not want that. China actually has a significant military presence not too far from the North Korean border, just in case. Just in case. But, anyways, so now you have Russia and North Korea kind of close, right? And now under Trump, United States and Russia are going to be a little close. That means that China is kind of the one left with the bag, right?
Right.
The one opponent to kind of zero in on. And in China and Russia, for a while under the Biden administration, I was concerned that there was going to be um, unwilling allies between those two countries.
Hmm.
They talked about officially the unlimited allies or unlimited friendship, something along those lines. And although a lot of that statement is really for show to the West as a show of strength, it's not really real, but it's somewhat real, right? It's more economic than anything for China and the relationship with Russia. But had had or had Biden or Harris won re-election, or if Biden won re-election or Harris won election, conceivably we could see a situation where China and Russia's ties would strengthen because they would kind of be the counterweight to the United States containment global containment strategy of its near peer adversaries, which are those two countries. But since Trump won, China might actually be cornered. Um, and this has some severe repercussions on how they want to approach Taiwan, right?
Right.
Taiwan continues to be something that they hold, or the Chinese government, the Politburo Standing Committee, the top leaders that fall under President Xi Jinping, it's kind of like their top priority is to, in their words, reunite, but it's never reunite. I mean, the Chinese Communist Party has never controlled Taiwan at any point in its history since its founding in 1949. But reunite with Taiwan forcefully, or originally the idea was through coercive diplomatic means. But
Mhm.
China has increasingly found out that that's just not going to happen. If anything, over the years, we see that the Taiwanese people have increasingly so exhibited a Taiwan identity separate from that of Chinese identity.
Mhm.
And that doesn't bode well for reunification. So,
Yeah.
I think that the military means of conquering Taiwan is more likely the the more successful option between the two, between diplomatic and military means. But military means is very risky,
Mm.
especially if the U.S. only focuses on China as its adversary in the next few years. We, and even under the Biden administration, we have done a significant pivot. And actually, even before the Biden administration, stemming back from the Obama administration, we pivoted to East Asia. We recognized the danger of the Chinese government, especially with respect to it not honoring the integrity of international seas. If you look at the South China Seas, the East China Seas, the multiple claims islands such as the Spratlys, in which China is trying to exhibit its control over the entire domain, right? Uh,
Mhm.
so it's going to be interesting how China will react to Trump's win and Trump's second presidency over the next few years. I think it might actually force them to stay put. Uh, because it actually increases the danger for China to invade Taiwan if U.S. is firmly focused on on protecting Taiwan. But that said, also Trump has been not committal to Taiwan whatsoever, whereas Biden has very publicly stated that he will support the defense of Taiwan.
Right.
So there might be an opportunity for the Chinese there. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, it would be unfortunate if China was to invade Taiwan and reunite it, quote unquote.
Yeah.
So, but I don't know. I mean, I haven't been following how close of of an issue it is for the reunification. You know, I'm not. I know it's always been an issue going on, and there's always been this claim that Taiwan is a part of China according to
Yeah.
the Chinese Communist Party. But I'm not. I'm not hip to what the next steps would be. So I hope that there is no invasion.
Well, I definitely agree with you. I think that it would be terrible for the interests of the world if China was to forcibly take Taiwan, uh, if for no other reason economic, right? Because Taiwan is one of the leading, if not the leader, in terms of export of silicon chips that the world uses.
Hmm.
So if that supply stops, the price of all computing, from your laptop to buying your next Tesla, is going to increase. So
All right.
All right. Well, you meant we talked a little bit about propaganda from the Russians, but I wanted before we stop talking about the election, I wanted to just give a shout out to the GOP. Their influence operators are among the best I've seen here in the U.S. I mean, they've really been able to warp reality in such a way, and I'm saying this not sarcastically. I actually mean
Right.
it. I think that their ability to warp reality to what they want to convey to their voters, and even to not their voters, has been amazing. So, for instance, right, their attacks on current President Biden, soon to be former, they attacked him on things that just does not make sense. So they attacked him on his age successfully. Would you agree? They attacked him on his age, like he's
Yeah.
too old, right? And they, granted, he is old, and but here's the thing: they emphasize all his gaffes and also made things that were taken out of context to perpetuate this narrative that he is an adult old man, right? The reality is, if you actually were to look at all the footage of former President Trump, or President-elect Trump now, he has tons of those too. And last time I checked, he's only 2, 3 years younger than
Right.
Biden. In
Yeah, there's
fact,
not much of an age difference.
Trump is going to be the oldest president in American history when he takes office in January. So that begs the question: how does that work?
Mm-hmm.
Does not make sense at all. Why is Trump seen as the eager young man when he's not? He's anything but.
All right.
And the things that he spouts is wildly more crazy than anything that current President Biden has said, at least in my opinion.
Yeah. No, I hear that.
Now, let's talk about policy, right? Okay, so never mind characteristics, but let's talk about policy. Things that Biden really has to own up to, right? So, what's one of the biggest things that has really been a severe hit against President Biden's administration? Immigration, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, what about immigration? The question is, well, hey guys, we have the biggest immigration illegal border crossing crisis in history right now, right? Okay, I'm going to say this to all our viewers today, all right, because you may have missed it. This is currently the final year of the Biden administration, right? And in this year, there are less illegal border crossings under President Biden's administration
Mm-hmm.
than in President Trump's final year in his first administration. I'm going to say that again. President Biden has had fewer illegal border crossings in the current year of his final year of serving as president of the United States than President Trump did in his final year during his first term. And yet, somehow, the reality has been rewritten. The revisionist history is that no, President Biden or Democrats as a whole are weak on immigration. That is so far from the truth.
Mm-hmm.
It boggles my
Yeah.
mind. It really boggles my mind. And the average person, it doesn't matter if you're a Republican. It's already one thing if you're, a MAGA loving, super Republican, go Trump type of dude, just going to go along with anything that you hear in that echo chamber. But there are Democrats, liberals that say the exact same thing.
Right.
I just I can't understand it except for the fact that the influence operation, the amount of money being pushed, but and also being utilized and
Mm.
leveraged by very talented Republican operatives is nothing short of astounding. I'm actually impressed.
Yeah. It's amazing how they're able to control the narrative.
if anybody listening to this podcast is saying, "Well, where's your facts on this?" Look up the Washington Post. Just yesterday, they had an article about the illegal immigration crisis and how President Biden's numbers are actually lower than President Trump's. So it's very It's an interesting read.
Yeah. Okay. I'll check it out.
Well, anyways, I guess enough about the election. Let's talk a little bit about business. All right. So, anything new with you about your various businesses in real estate or in the art world? I know you mentioned that you were giving away art. That's you like me, we tend to like to lose money when it comes to business. So,
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. I've recently been working with a friend of mine. He has like a collectible cards business on eBay, and it's kind of interesting to like um, get involved in that slightly. Nothing too crazy, but got the automated Epson card scanner, and there's like a really fast processing software that allow you to like batch upload like 500 auto identified cards with all of their information. So it's kind of cool, but
yeah.
it's not like it's kind of time consuming too. So I haven't really been putting much time into it, but I did for a little bit, and that's kind of fun. And I don't know, I've been working on applying for some more positions and seeing what comes about. Some user experience design jobs, and
Where are you living now? Are you still in Puerto Rico?
yep, I'm in Aguadilla, Puerto Rico. I just moved from. I was a little farther east in Quebradillas and moved to a larger town about a month ago.
All right. Well, hey, look, here's a great opportunity to any of our viewers that are business owners that need a graphic designer working remote or local to Puerto Rico. Hit up Eric. He is the man. Yeah, he's also very unique in his artistic style. I'm just gonna shill for you, buddy.
Oh,
So,
thank you, brother. I appreciate it. Yeah. So
well, for me, anyways. So update on my short-term rental, man. Oh, let me update you on my long-term rental and my short-term rental. So, as you know, I own both a long-term rental business and a short-term rental business, and it's been nothing but headaches on both ends. Things were going well. Things have been going well for my long-term business for a while, but my property in Georgia, the tenant has been driving me crazy. They just suddenly decided to stop paying rent. And what they do is this is in what they think is a great idea. I'm going to stop paying rent, and then I'm going to drag the process. See if the landlord, which is me, tries to evict them. I have to then get pay for a lawyer that's on retainer. Have to have him draft a notice to quit. Then from that, maybe a second notice to quit based on Georgia law, and then take them to court. What they'll do is the day before court, they will pay the minimum amount, which is usually just the rent minus penalties to be able to stay in the property. And then they promise to pay the penalties as well, which they may do, but then they stopped doing that, and they kept doing this over and over again.
wow.
Uh, this has gone on for like 4 months, 5 months now. So at this point, they just decided to stop paying altogether. Now, I'm not. I don't. I am. I have to let you guys know out there that I'm not a really great businessman, and I say that not because I don't have good business acumen. It's because I have too much of a care for others, which
Mhm.
is really a bad trait to have in business. You don't want to be compassionate, and I hate to say that, but you really don't want to be compassionate. This tenant has been living in my property for at least 2 years, and I have never raised the rent on them. I've paid for things that were their responsibility. For instance, there was there was a crazy incident involving a bullet being shot through the house. So that's interesting. Um, but I took care of everything just because I wanted to do right by my tenants, make sure that they are stay a long time, and the idea was they'll take care of the property. But at this point, I'm scared to see what the property is like. I mean, I spent over $30,000 renovating the property, and they were the first people to enjoy that renovation. I'm scared to see
Mhm.
what it's going to look like when they finally are given the boot.
Right.
So that's my long term rental in Georgia. We'll see how that goes. Now I have a short term rental in Florida, and it's been nothing but a nightmare. I cannot express. So I want everybody to know that I would not normally be in a short term rental business if I wasn't kind of pushed into it through a series of bad decisions, starting with paying into a shady business that guaranteed that I would make a profit of $2,000 a month, which the numbers didn't make sense to me. But I don't, I did not allow myself to let my skepticism and my knowledge to get the better of me. I instead allowed to myself to listen to the BS lies and also a poorly written contract. Which, by the way, this company, the shady company, tried to make me write a contract after they found me a property that basically said anything that was written prior to that was agreed upon in the prior contracts or any type of written agreement is no longer valid. I said no. That does not make sense.
Mhm.
So they didn't push the subject, but I mean, at the end of the day, they also kind of they have a lot of power on their side, right? Because uh, I dropped several $1,000s for what ended up being them being property finders, and they didn't do a good job. They basically dumped whatever they could find for me, and they said that hey, this is going to have a good return. But the property that I was given, and keep in mind this is not even the first one, not the first one that they found for me. All the previous ones were terrible. Um, and they claim that they're nothing but professional. But one of the properties that I engaged in before the one I'm currently in, turns out it cannot even be rented out as a short-term rental based on the laws of the local government. So uh,
Wow.
the entire company is shady. Okay, and you can't really complain against them because if you complain, then they disable your access to the tools that you need to at least enjoy that you what you paid for, right? So,
Mhm.
but I fully suspect that business will eventually be sued like horribly, and they're going to uh, cut up shop, and all the people that put money into it and lost money into it are going to be up shit's creek. But anyways, so now into the property. I have lost tons of money. We're talking about right. If I did everything that they wanted to include, have them do the interior design and all that stuff, I would be over $50,000 in the hole. Instead, I did a lot of the work myself. Personally, took a trip down to Florida, designed it. I'm actually quite proud of it. But all things said and done, it was just under 30 grand. It's a lot of money
Yeah.
for. And then on top of that, this past month was the first month I actually broke even. We started in what, July, yeah, so July. So last month was the first month we were uh broke even. So breaking even is not meaning that I'm starting to pay off the debts. It just means that the cost of operation for that particular month, it was equal to how much money I made, which the rent alone is insane. It's $3,400 for a Florida house. Now it's a nice house, I guess. Not really. I mean, it's so. I hope the landlord doesn't hear me say that, but he's actually a buddy of mine. He's a buddy of mine. I'm glad. I'm thankful to have at least a good landlord, because if I didn't, it could be a lot worse. And
Hmm.
I will say this: people in Florida, those old white folks, they do not like short-term rentals, and they definitely don't like short-term rentals when most of the rentees are of a certain racial and socioeconomic demographic. Let's just put it that way.
Hmm.
But I'll be honest with you, uh, there's a certain socioeconomic demographic that I also don't like. But more importantly, not so much how much they make, but how they make their money. Uh, I am convinced that a number of my tenants, past tenants, or guests, I guess you should say guests for short-term rentals and rather than tenants, are drug dealers, and there is really no way to counteract that. There really
Hmm.
just isn't. And the platforms that I use, everything from Airbnb, booking.com, so forth, you know, and I don't use all the platforms, I just said any of the platforms I've tried anyways. They they don't care. They'll put a whole lot of promises on the front end so that homeowners or property managers for properties you list their properties on their platform. But if a guest steals something, my last guest stole my PS5, my brand new
Fuck.
PS. Yeah, that's $800 loss after the PS5 and all the different accessories. They even stole it was actually secured onto a base that doubled as a cooling system and charging system. And yeah, they stole it all. Um, uh, yeah, I mean the platforms do nothing. They just don't care. So,
No reimbursement or anything like that.
mm-mm. And here's the thing: the common refrain from the chuckleheads that I talk to are, well, why didn't you get insurance? Okay, guys, I'm a licensed insurance agent. So, by the way, if anybody needs insurance for anything, property, casualty, life, health, let me know. But I'm going to say this as a licensed insurance agent: insurance isn't made to really be used. I mean, it's just a fact. You buy into an insurance policy, there is a intent. I don't want to say intent. You know, insurance businesses will do what's in the letter of the agreement, what's in the letter of the law. But the thing is, the agreements are written in a way where there's tons of exclusions, there's high deductibles, there's all sorts of things that make collecting on a policy a unfeasible, right?
Hmm.
So when you're talking about an $800 PS5 and you have a $500 deductible, it's really a hard call. It's really a hard call to say, hey, I'm going to go ahead and make a claim. Because if you make a claim, then your policy is gonna probably rise.
Right.
And at the same time, how much are you going to get? Okay, you have a high deductible, but are you going to get the full value of what you paid into? Or are they even going to say that, or the insurance company, are they even going to say that no, it's not covered because we don't have proof of the item, we don't have a receipt? That's the reality.
Right.
And so I'm kind of left to fend for myself. I'm just a guy. So out of the kindness of my heart, I actually we operate at a loss because people aren't renting otherwise. The prices are so low for rentals in Florida because my competitors are not other property managers that are having a lease with a landlord and then subleasing it for a short-term rental. My competitors are landlords themselves, so they're able to save on that middleman, right? They don't have a $3,400 fucking rental fee every month. They may have a mortgage, or maybe their mortgage is already paid off for, or they bought their house 2 decades ago when Florida was dirt cheap. I mean, it's still relatively cheap to buy a house in Florida, but it's dirt cheap 2 decades ago. They probably paid it all off, right?
Hmm.
So really, they could afford to just, hey, you want a house to yourself for 100 $120 a day. I mean, that's insane. That's an insanely good deal. a Florida house all to yourself near the beach or on the beach or with a pool for $120 a day. I mean, I can't compete against that. And when I do, I lose money. So I'm essentially keeping in business just so I can lose as little money as possible. That's
Mm.
not a that's not an enviable position to be in. On top of that, the landlord is being kind of shady about how long I can stay. Like he's being shady. He knows that it takes years for me to recoup costs if things went as according to plan, which they're not, by the way. But he's kind of implying that he's not going to let me rent again when my term is up. So
Mm.
it's gonna be interesting because then I'm gonna have like $20,000-$30,000 worth of stuff in Florida. I hate Florida. To all of our viewers from Florida, I love you guys, but your state sucks. And you got a lot of, and it's not because the state itself sucks. I love how beautiful Florida is. I hate the weather though. It's humid, hot, mosquitoes, and natural disasters. But also, so many of your fellow compatriots suck. Just I have not, I have not seen such piss poor people than the people I have met. Now, to be fair, I've met a lot of great people in Florida too. Like there are some people whenever I go to Florida that I think are just some of the nicest people and like should represent all of Americans.
Mhm.
They live alongside some of the absolute worst people I have ever met, and that is a low bar.
Mm.
So, um, yeah, I mean, yeah, and I've actually become more jaded being a property manager for that short term rental because oh my gosh, some of the people like the worst guests are the ones that's whenever it says that somebody's renting my property and it says that in the profile that they're from Florida, I already know there's the red flag
Right.
because more than 50% of the time they're kids that want to trash the place because they can't trash their own place or they're drug dealers.
Mm.
And now my neighbors all hate me, so that's great. Oh, by the way, the neighbors called the police on the properties like at least twice, like totally false allegations, but they did it anyways. And then they somehow one the last time is they somehow linked a random car break-in, which happens all the time, by the way, in the neighborhood all the time, to my short-term rental. Like that's they were making this connection to the sheriff's office. Sheriff's office just blew them off. Like this is not true. But nonetheless, they tried it, and they even called Airbnb. They called Airbnb and filed a complaint, making these false allegations. Airbnb had to contact me. I was like, you know what? You can't make this up. So, oh well. Well, pray for me because, guys, I don't know how I'm gonna survive it, but thankfully I have my ATM business. So my ATM business, as you all know, has been historically a big money pit as well. But things are looking up, and mainly is due to yours truly having all the initiative. Oh, I see two of you now, Eric. Hold on, Eric. I see two of you now. You back? Can you hear
What?
me?
I'm back on twice.
No, you're good now. You disappeared on your original screen, and then now you're on this screen.
Sorry about
No
that.
worries. All right. Well, as I was saying, um, where was I actually? Oh yeah, my ATM business. So my ATM business has been a money pit for the longest time, but it's now keeping my property business afloat. And a lot of it's due to yours truly pushing some initiatives. I had I had been doggedly pursuing a prospective client at a hotel, major hotel, for half a decade, almost 5 years. And finally, they were like, you know what? We'll try you guys out. So and that property has very amenable terms that we wrote up for it. So, and it's doing pretty well. And then on top of that, I was walking to I have a million businesses and also a million jobs. And one of them is serving as a program manager for a company supporting the Department of Commerce, right? And the U.S. Department of Commerce in D.C. is connected to a building called the Ronald Reagan International Trade Center. Okay, now this place is amazing. So it has like no less than 3 or 4 conferences or symposiums or just major things going on any given day. Uh, it brings a lot of powerful players from all over the world to do trade shows, conferences, and so forth. And what I noticed is they had ATMs from a major bank, but they pulled out. So I was like, you know, I walk by here all the time. There's so many people here. How come there's no ATM? So you know what? I did a lot of digging, and I finally got a hold of the right person. I said, "Hey, would you guys want to have an ATM?" And they were like, "Yeah." So we're on the cusp of completing our the signing the final agreement. But I'm really excited that we're going to put down 3 ATMs, and that might become my newest biggest customer actually. So I'm excited. So so really the main thing is no matter what job you do, you got to be observant. You got to notice areas of opportunity for you to take advantage of, and also to be determined, right? I always like to say, and I'm writing this in my book that I'm writing. Whenever you see failure, get rid of the failure by following the RID principle. RID is an acronym, stands for resilience, innovative spirit, and determination. Oh,
Back again.
oh my
Double
goodness!
version.
Again, one more time. I keep
Yes.
you okay? How's the connection
Yeah,
bad down in Puerto Rico?
yeah, the connection, the power flickered and turned off the router for 1 second. So
Oh man.
hold on.
Okay. Well, as I was saying, for success, you really need to. I mean, in my book, I'm writing. You get rid of failure by just getting rid of it, and RID actually stands for an acronym, the RID principle, which is resilience, innovative spirit, and determination. If you have those 3 things, guys, and this is your key advice for all our viewers today, if you want to succeed in anything you do, whether it's business or just a regular job or just in life skills, what I noticed is you don't have to actually be smart. You don't have to necessarily be knowledgeable, but you definitely have to encompass and embody really the 3 elements in the grid principle, right? You have to be resilient. You have to be able to accept when you don't succeed what you set out to do and learn from that. And when you learn from that, you got to not just keep doing the same thing over and over again, because you're just going to have the same result more often than not. So that's where it goes from resilience to the innovative spirit part. You have to be able to innovate and redouble your efforts in a different way to get to what you were trying to get. And then that also follows with D, determination. You have to be able to say, hey, I'm going to see this through. I'm going to do this even when I feel like the cards are out, even when I feel like I just can't go any further. You keep pushing. Because really true failure only happens when you finally say, I give up. But sometimes you do also need to know when you have to stop one course of action and then do something else to achieve your broader goal.
Right.
There is no shame in saying, hey, this is not the right path. I haven't given up, but this is not the path for me to get to where I'm trying to get.
Sure.
So
Innovative spirit.
if that's enticing to you, I have a lot more to say in my book, which will be coming out hopefully in a few months.
Oh,
So
that's great. Are you
yeah,
working with a
thanks.
publisher?
I am self-publishing it.
All
So,
right.
but
Hey.
unless if there's a publisher that wants to get with me, let me know.
All
So,
right.
all right. Well, on that point, I despite all the different businesses, I did want to also mention. that I am leaving my job at the supporting Department of Commerce. And this is actually the first public time that I'm announcing it. So, all of
Oh,
our viewers, this is your
uh,
first time hearing it.
you
So,
heard it here first, y'all.
that's right. I am I I have several offers, and I actually started pursuing work for. I mean, I'm doing some 1099 work, with potential transition to a W-2 role for a company. I won't mention it specifically, but it's a great opportunity. And to be honest with you, I wouldn't have even done it if I wasn't kind of pushed. And when I say pushed, is the work I'm currently doing for Department of Commerce. It's on a contract on a program that is coming to an end. We had worked successfully for the full length of the contract, which was 5 years. We actually went. We are well beyond it. We've been running on long-term extensions. We're at year 6+ now, so I'm very proud of that. It really is testament to the hard work we've been doing. We have a transition plan currently to a new contract vehicle, but they won't need another PM for the company that's taking over the work. So all of my guys are going to be able to keep their jobs, but unfortunately, I won't. But that actually turns out to be a blessing, right? Some may see, oh man, you're facing losing your job. What are you going to do about it? Well, for most people that know me, they'll be like, well, you got all these other jobs. Well, as you've been hearing, my other businesses aren't as successful as one would just automatically assume. And that's another thing that I see a lot, is that whenever somebody is well regarded as an entrepreneur, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're magically just successful. Anything they touch. Oh, I started this business. Okay, it's automatically successful. But that's not the case. For example, I have another business, which I'm actually part of a nationally acclaimed leadership team. It's not me leading it alone. There are many executives that make up the board, and this business has been going on for, I want to say, years now, and we have not turned a profit yet. And the thing is these businesses take time. And also, not only did they not make profit yet, they've actually cost money. I've spent my personal money to help build the business to make it go forward. But businesses that you're creating yourself, it doesn't necessarily succeed. And even if it is poised to succeed, it won't do so immediately. That's a lot of the time. It'd be great if it does. Some businesses do become immediate successes, but that's not always the case. And I would dare say that's not the case most of the time. So, yeah. But anyways, so this new job is really great because it's doing everything that, well, it's things that's familiar to me. It's things that I'm good at. I'm a program manager. I'm good at leading organizations, good at interfacing at the executive level to other executive clients, executive stakeholders. But it also wanted me to do a lot of the business proposal, the BD, business development side, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which from a federal government contracting standpoint, I am not as strong as. I have a lot of BD experience, but not in specifically federal contracting. And one of the things that is unique to federal contracting is if you're pursuing a contract, let's say I'm a company, let's say a government department wants XYZ work, right? And they're considering all these different companies, and I'm one of the companies that's bidding for this work, right? One of the things that we have to do is called orals. Now, for all our viewers in the DC metro region, at least the term should be familiar with you if you haven't done it yourself. And quite in fact, those that have done it are pretty valuable, right? Because that's how you win. That's a good portion of how you win contracts. So the orals is exactly as the name implies. You are orally speaking. You're giving an oration
Mm-hmm.
to the government stakeholders, to the contracting, the KO contracting officer, or and or the core, the contracting officer or representative, and all the other stakeholders that is deemed necessary from the federal side. And they're going to hear you present your case. And usually it comes in different formats. I've done all sorts of orals, from, hey, you're giving a speech and there's no slides. I've given presentations with slides. I've been in situations where the government said, okay, everyone needs to not be able to show any notes or anything like that. You have to be able to speak off the cusp. You have to collaborate with your team of subject matter experts in the room to give a proper response. We've had situations where they would give us questions and we have to just answer it, right? Both prepared and unprepared. So, but in this new business, I've gained so much direct experience from a PM perspective on these orals, and I have to say I feel better for it. It was not anything I'm not good at. I'm good at talking, hence why you guys are all listening on the podcast. But I would say that it's something that I was nervous about. I was genuinely nervous about, and I think that's the case for anything new you do. Not entirely new for me, but in this context, it was still relatively nerve-wracking, because also there's the added effect where my employment is contingent on the success of these orals. So we'll see how that goes. Cool. And I would recommend to all of our viewers that, in addition to the RID principle, always ask yourself, on a quarterly, biannual or annual perspective, am I comfortable professionally? And if the answer is yes, then you might need to do something else. Not like change your entire life, like different, but like maybe it's time to move to a different job, a different position, maybe try to ask for a raise. Do something that's outside of your comfort zone, because otherwise you're going to be stuck. And I know we all have been there. We've all been in the situation where we feel stuck. And that's the worst feeling to have professionally, right? Because in your mind, time is not infinite. Not yet. Fingers crossed. Hey, Elon, if you're listening, I'm still waiting for you to invent some way for me to never die. I mean, I know you don't want to die ever, so invent something so I can also never die. But until then, we all have a limited duration here on this planet. And if you feel like you're not growing while you're aging, that's the worst feeling. So, all right. Well, we've talked quite a bit. I will end our conversation with, I've been promising for a while that I'll start recommending different productivity tools for business owners. And one thing that I have to say that I absolutely love and I use every single day, and I am not getting any type of benefit for giving them a shout out, is Voila. If you go to www.getvoila.ai, getvoila.ai, it is a tool that I cannot live without. Think of, okay, so everyone's familiar with ChatGPT, right? You go to the the OpenAI ChatGPT interface, kind of like a chat, like a web-based chat, and you ask questions, right? It's really great. Imagine if you just did a quick toggle and a pop-up comes up no matter where you are, whether it's on your desktop, on your mobile phone, even on your tablet device, okay? And you'll be able to immediately ask questions and get the best LLM, best language learning model responses in the industry. And not only that, you can have conversations with it where it remembers it gives inference to previous inquiries you made before it. So it adds context to the conversation. And it has maximum security, so it doesn't actually save anything on the server side. It doesn't make any connection to what you're asking to unless if you specifically save it as such. I love it. I use it every single day. I think it is super accurate, and it is my favorite. It's probably one of my top favorite tools currently, not just as a businessman, but as a researcher, as a person, just as a person that wants to learn things. Voila is I have yet to see something better than Voila, and I've evaluated a lot of Chat GPT like or Chat GPT clone like programs out there. Nothing comes close to Voila. Um, I will say that it does everything that you would expect from the best uh, um, AI type of chat interface. It even creates images for you, for instance. So I think that's pretty amazing. So
Yeah.
uh, yeah. So if anybody's interested, check out getvoila.ai, and their price is insanely low too. They start at the low cost of free, and you get 250 free requests a month for no cost at all. And if you choose to actually have their really great premium model plan, it's $8 a month. More than definitely less than what you would be wanting to like less. Well, I should say more value than what you're paying for, and it's a lot less than say even a gym membership. So, and I know a lot of you have those Planet Fitness gym memberships that you don't use. So, you know, I know because well, I'm also one of you guys. So, but I actually do use my Planet Fitness membership. I actually recently upgraded to the uh, Black Card, which is more
Oh
than
yeah,
double the price. And the reason is because my daughter goes work out with me. So, there's that. So,
that's great, man.
yeah. So, anyways,
Cool.
Eric, you got any last words before we sign off for the day?
Grateful to be here. Always fun to chat with you, Sean. And thank you to everyone who else tapped in to listen to us ramble. And, looking forward to being consistent and being here next week. You
That's
got
right. Hey, if you want to hear two old guys talk about various stuff, tune in for our
All
next
right.
chat.
Where are these old guys at?
Somebody told me that I look like I'm in my low 30s, and I was like, really? God bless you. Just
Yeah,
bless
I
you.
see it, man. I think you're in your 30s. If I didn't have this gray in my beard, I'd be in my 30s too. But
Well, I definitely do not feel it. I feel like I'm in my 50s right now. So
yeah, you've lived more than people in their 80s.
that's right. Well, also somebody recently said that they don't believe that I have working on my ninth collegiate degree either. So
What this guy?
I got a whole bunch of diplomas up there, this outside of the screen. So
Yes.
uh,
Wow. Ninth degree.
yeah.
Amazing. Cool.
All right.
All right. Well,
All right. See you,
in-
everyone. Hey, be sure to check us out. I'm also creating a new separate website for the Sean and Eric show. We'll release it in our next meeting. It'll be a dedicated Sean and Eric show website, and look forward to people interacting, engaging with us there. All right.
cool.
Have a
Hey,
good one, everyone.
peace, y'all.
Bye bye.